What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. So my voice is still a bit scratchy. We're still gonna do it. I want to freestyle a video about the 4 elements. So let's get into it. All right, so I've talked about this a lot on my Instagram at Jesse Innocent Astro, my name and Astro. But basically, let's talk about the 4 elements and sort of what it's like to be missing one or multiple in a chart. So we'll start with Earth. Actually, no, that's the easiest one for me. We'll start with air. So air, Aquarius, Gemini, Libra. So people who lack air, it's interesting because, you meet people who are studying themselves, right? Who have, gotten astrology readings and they're more aware of themselves. But in my observations of certain people who may not do that and lack air, there can be this real lack of perceptiveness in the sense of they can have a lot of trouble seeing things from other people's point of view, right? When you have a lot of air, when you're good in that department, you're able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and see the world, see a situation from that perspective, right? Your abstract thinking is quite good, and just thinking in general. Now, there's confusion because someone might say, well, are you saying that lack of air makes someone stupid? No, I'm not saying that. Air also rules communication. So, you'll see people with a lot of air be very good when it comes to socializing, very good when it comes to communicating. At the base level of communication, we don't think it's important, but it's so important, right? I'm with the idea of F small talk and all that, right? But also at the same time, no, I'm not, because I think that we're all very complex and we have multiple sides. Like, for me, I can speak for myself. I have like this more serious side, then I'm like the least serious person ever, So, or just very joking all the time. So I think at times it's very important to be able to get your point across to different people, right? And I think that it's not that people who lack air can't do that. They tend to not, it just usually isn't their preference. Like, you won't find them oftentimes as the most conversative people. Like, anyone can be very conversative about something they're passionate about, right? But yeah, and I think when you lack air, I've always said this and had great results with people, do breath work, simply breathe, get oxygen, go outside. It is life-changing. People have told me who have a lack of air and who have started to do breath work. And yeah, just going to natural places that has fresh oxygen, it has a massive impact. So yeah, what can we say? Let me write this down too. But yeah, so basically lacking air or having too much air, I would say, can manifest. I'm trying to think. I mean, the obvious answer is just someone who speaks too much, right? But there's just so many variables, honestly. Yeah, I'm not going to answer that one because I'll tell you why. Because I've seen people who have a lot of air. It really depends on what you're lacking, right? For example, if you have a lot of air and no earth and then a lot of fire, like, yeah, you might be off the chains, like with your communication and with your action, and lacking a structure and just do, and not really having a firm foundation. But if you have a lot of air, but then you do have water and earth, right? It can kind of balance itself out a little bit. So really, it just really depends on the amount. And it's the same for lack of, but like when I say lack of, I'm really referring to mainly, yeah, the big six in Jupiter, really the big six, right? The Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, Mars, Mercury. So yeah, lacking that. And I would throw personally South Node in there, but that's just me. So next we can talk about water. So just write this down. So water, so okay, so lacking water. Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer. So when you lack water or when someone lacks water in a chart, it can be very difficult for them to understand where someone is coming from on an emotional level. Now, once again, just like the air one, it doesn't mean not having air doesn't make you unintelligent. Not having water doesn't make you not have a heart, right? It's more about the mechanism through which you feel emotions and through the mechanism through which you relate to people. So I've heard people who lack air speak about how sometimes they don't see the nonverbal cues related to someone having a certain emotional expression, if that makes sense. So they might like be around someone who's gets sad in the moment, but they might not pick up on it. And so, sometimes also, but like different aspects, like I said, I always say can completely shift this, right? And I've also heard people who lack water say that they have trouble in very deep emotional conversations knowing what to say, and it can almost feel like they're saying what they think they're supposed to say rather than what's really there. And then you could say to that, well, does that mean that they're blocked? Look, the element water is about, if you think about the signs Pisces, Scorpio, Cancer, it's emotion, it's empathy, it's compassion, it's intuition, right? So anyone that has a lot of these, and when you have a lot of these, you can be like, too much water can be someone that just has trouble going outside, in the sense that they're so emotional and they feel like energetically so sensitive, right? Like there's this naked feeling, and the boundaries that they have, like the energetic boundaries that they have, it's more thin. So, little insults can really affect them, or being around people with certain energies can really affect them. So I think that when you lack that, you could make the argument that it's all those things I just mentioned, but in reverse, right? But yeah, I have seen intuition come in all types of astrological forms, right? I think that generally people who have, Pisces people can be some of the most intuitive, Scorpio, Cancer, but Aquarius, the most, like, I don't like to say psychic. I only know a few actual psychics, but the most like highly intuitive people I know, it's probably Aquarius, to be honest, for me personally. Could just be my own personal astrology for that one, but that's because Uranus, rules them, the higher octave of Mercury. So it's not necessarily that, but definitely on the emotional, interpersonal level, there can be some hurdles. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there. But let me know in the comments anything extra you would say for water. Next, we can talk about, what do we want to do? Fire, earth. We can talk about fire. So when you lack fire, actually, I just said this one in the video, so I'll do earth. So when you lack earth, you become someone who, or I lack earth, right? So I don't have any earth in my big six, if you want to call it that. And I know so many people who lack earth. And the way I describe it is people who have a lot of earth or a good amount of earth, the perception they have of who they are day to day, it doesn't go like like this, you know? And I'm not saying for me personally that's how it is, but it seems to be a lot easier for people who lack earth to be ungrounded by something. Like people who have a good amount of earth, did I just say that? Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo? I don't think so. Like, I've even seen it when I used to go out and party and stuff with hangovers. It's such a weird thing to bring up, right? But I've noticed that I was like when I was still going out sometimes, I still do go out, but more, and seeing my the people I knew who had earth energy, it's like they got hangovers, but they weren't this like crazy experience of like, who the hell am I, just like leaving their body and horrid. So, and I've seen that too on more of a daily level, being able to be consistent. So when you lack earth, it could be extra hard. Now, of course, we have to say this, right? Houses matter too. And this, I should have said this at the start, but if you've watched my videos, you know that this is how I am. Like if you have a lot of 6th house, 10th house, 2nd house, right? Those are the houses associated with, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. I know that houses and signs are not the same thing, but it's earth houses, okay? So that can change it a lot. Because like I have a lot of 6th house, so, and I'm very organized, but like it's still on the emotional, psychic level, or energetic level rather, there's that there tends to be that lack of groundedness in who you are, and your routine matters so much, right? Your routine. So people without earth, they really have to focus on their routine. They have to, whether it's running, getting outside, getting enough sun. It's very easy for someone, especially if they have like an abundance of like the more sensitive energy, to fall into addiction if they lack earth, right? So besides that, I know I'm blanking on some important points. A lack of earth can lend itself to a lack of follow through. So if you have a lot of fire, for example, which we'll talk about next, you could be really good at starting things. But when it comes to that energy, like look at Capricorn, look at Taurus, like they're able to kind of start and go through that thing for 20, 30 years, right? I mean, if they lack fire, it might be hard for them to start, but once they start, they can keep going through the tough times, right? There's a lot of resilience with earth energy. Virgo, it's like so good with like, yes, too much earth can be over worrying, too much care, in respect to the material realm, being too logical, not believing in the magic in the universe and the world enough, not having enough faith, being a little bit cold or very cold. But yeah, I mean, also perfection, having a lot of earth can be very perfectionist. And it can be very gloomy, like around certain people with a bunch over like the top earth, like, for more free-spirited people, which a lot of people who are into astrology and these types of studies can be, it can be a real bummer to be around the low vibe, a lot of earth, because it feels like walking on eggshells, right? You feel as though in your mind, you want to just be able to say something, right? And not have it be judged. The earth can be very judgy, and it can be a reflection of that internal judge of self that's projected onto other. Now, this is not, that's, lower manifestation earth, right? But besides that, back to my original point about lacking earth, I mean, my whole life is a perfect example of this. It's been the most up and down, crazy experience. And it's only in the last few years that I've figured this thing out. While people who have a lot of earth, they may have figured it out earlier. Maybe like the little things that that threw me off. Like when you're a kid, for example, let's say you're playing sports as a kid. Earth will be, that consistent kid. And I'm not saying that they would lack the like if they're like a football player, soccer player, if you're in the U.S., right? Like they can be a very solid player. They can be any position, right? But like they can be so consistent. And then you could have someone who has no earth, a bunch of water, and they're just this creative genius player. But then they're so much more sensitive to the criticism of the crowd or the sounds of the crowd or the energy of the crowd. Just little things like that. So I think that's the biggest thing with earth is, sticking to plans. When you lack earth, it's like you gain self-esteem by how you're able to stick to plans. I have a friend who doesn't have earth, and he's not good at sticking to plans. And I tell him, but you can only tell someone something so much, that the more you don't stick to plans, what that does, promises you make yourself when you don't stick to them, that sends an unconscious message to your psyche that you are unreliable, that you can't rely on yourself, right? Because if you're speaking of your higher self and, you or your, I don't want to say lower self, but you and your higher self, when you make. Okay, well, my mic just died, so I have no idea when it died, but to continue what I was saying about Earth, it is ultimately completely based on perfectionism and um, that follow through. That the promises you make with your higher self. I'm gonna be at, I'm gonna work at this time. I'm gonna. So like like it's very important to keep these because when you don't, you start to lose that connection with you and your higher self. Um, and that's not good. That's not good to lose that connection. And what else was I saying? Yeah, so not being perfectionist. I don't know if that part was captured. I was talking about my running and just how like the last 3 weeks I've had so much work that I have only maybe went on 5 runs the last 3 weeks, which is for me very little. But it's about not being perfectionist, getting back on the horse. Like maybe next week I'll get back to 3-4 runs a week, right? So that's kind of that. And yeah, I hope that this is crazy. 2 videos in a row that I do. So yeah. Anyways, so with fire, the fire, you have to know that, this is Aries, Sagittarius, Leo. I talked about this in a video I just made. So to me, it's just right on the top of my head. When you lack fire, self-starting can be very tough. Initiation, right? It can be really tough to initiate. So, you could be someone who's very good at the follow through, like I was just saying with Earth. You could be very good at the continuation, and being able to take something and, like I always think of real estate for some reason. I used to like study it when I was younger, or like want to do that. So, like I always think of like different real estate people I know who from when I grew up who did real estate who are older than me, and their more earthy profiles, and just like how they were able to just take something and take it for the long, just keep going year after year after year. Fire, when you have when you lack it, and I know a lot of people, it's just
fire is that energy, that passion, you know, that very like that excitement. Like people who have a lot of fire have a lot of passion, right? I have a lot of fire. I have so many passions, so many things I love, and it's like easy to form them. I feel like for people who lack fire, because it can be a lot about identity, but in the sense that a lot of how one's identity on some level, one side of their identity can be related to, you know, what are you passionate about, right? What makes you, you know, what really drives you, right? And I feel as though for a lot of people who lack that fire energy, it can be hard to know the answer to that, right? And yeah, and I think that when you're not able to have that passion, it also makes the energy of play difficult. You think about Aries, it's that first sign, that boom, that fire, like do this, do that, go crazy, go crazy. Think about the results, or you know, the consequences later. Sag, it's like explore, adventure, philosophy, all this, you know. That's Mars, Jupiter, and then you have Leo, which is the fixed fire, right? Which is about, you know, pure creativity, pure fun, pure passion, pure play. So missing out on those, you know, it's tough. I think a lot of those form your identity. It forms your passions. It forms, you know, your beliefs in a sense, right? In the ninth house sense of you know, going through the world and finding your beliefs in that way. So yeah, it can be really tough for people with that to yeah to find their beliefs, and or to find what they love. Sorry. Um and yeah, so too much fire I can see as being people who have too much fire are interesting. Like they can be very over the top, and like my mom has even, and she's not an astrologer or anything, but she knows a little bit about astrology, but she has defined certain people as being too much fire, and then I look at their chart and they have a lot. Now, granted, I do know a lot of people with a lot of fire who are still calm, but you know, just in that the archetypical, I always struggle with that word, archetypal. Archetypal word meaning of that is more about someone who just is out there, you know, like they are very, very enthusiastic, but to a point where it's like it's just too much, you know, it's just so much energy. Maybe it's a lot of talking, right? It depends, but um a lot of people are not always happy. You know, like a lot of people are not like always in this amazing mood. I'm not saying people who have all fire are, but sometimes there can be, especially if there's a lack of water, there can just be, yeah, it's just like they need to sometimes read the room, in the sense of, and it's actually kind of sad to say it, but sometimes, you know, their excitement, and this is maybe not something I'm just saying it because it's not like something you should shut off. But sometimes people with a lot of fire, their excitement, their passion can literally make other people jealous. I'm just saying it, right? So it's like it can, when you're someone who's like that, it can bring out other people's insecurities, like and remind them of what they're not like, and it becomes so easy. Anyways, that's the video. I hope that these glue together well. Um, I made two more today, one yesterday. So yeah, a little break from the um, series on the signs. I have no idea what order these will be posted in, but cool, cool. Thank you. Ciao, guys. Bye bye.